Hey everybody, welcome back. So as you can see behind me here, I just got back from the York train show. I told myself it was going to be a light York. It was not a light York. Let's look at what I got. So before we start opening stuff, I'll give you my very quick summary of York. I didn't take any footage at the show. Probably should have. I say that every year, but I get so consumed by the show and talking to friends and things that it's usually not a priority. But I'll give you my quick summary. For me personally, this was the best show since before COVID. And I would say primarily because Trains had a really nice collection of New England stuff. And so, if you follow my channel, that's a lot of what I model. And the collection probably had every single New Haven piece that has ever been made in O scale. And supposedly there's more back in Georgia. So keep an eye on their website. But there was a lot of other New England stuff in there. And so most of what you see behind me here, I got from Trains. So just that alone was worth the trip and made the show for me. But outside that, there was a lot of other collections. And that's really what I go to York looking for, is something that was made, 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago, and you can't find or isn't that common. That's what I'm looking for, not necessarily the new stuff that just came out from the manufacturers. And it's great to see that stuff. And I will definitely pick some of that up, and did pick up one of those engines. But primarily, I'm looking for that hard to find, holy grail or golden goose, or something that is a little bit unique. So reflecting on York a little bit, I wanted to point out a few things. The first is that this York to me felt like kind of a turning point, if you will, in the next generation of the hobby. There's a ton of different examples as to why that is. Obviously, the YouTube meet and greet went very well. That was standing room only. But also just the number of younger folks that I saw there was more than, I've seen in the past. Now, was the Orange Hall shoulder to shoulder? Absolutely not. But there was more dads there with kids. And, I actually talked to one gentleman who was there with his two kids, who were probably 10 and 8, and found the hobby through YouTube, through the pandemic. They built a layout together in their basement, really got into it, and they were at York all together, enjoying the show and walking out with arms full, which is really what it's all about. Is this is a great family hobby. And so, I could list a dozen more examples, but it really kind of felt to me like this was a turning point where we're really starting to see the next generation, kind of pick up steam, if you will, and really being more engaged in the hobby. So if you weren't able to make it to York, be sure to check out trains.com. As I said, they had an awesome collection, and a lot of that stuff that didn't sell, or other pieces from that collection, are going to be coming to their website here in the next couple weeks. So I'll be checking it every day. I would encourage you to do the same, especially if you like unique Vision Line or high-end engines, or you model the New England railroads. You can use my code, Eric Trainman, that is ERIC Trainman, all one word, for $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. First item up is this Weaver RPO that I got from Vince's Trains in the first 30 minutes of the show. Walked in the booth, $25, brand new, still sealed in the box. You can't beat it. This car is beautiful. This is the same tooling that now belongs to Lionel, and it was a great way to start the show.
So not 5 minutes later, I walked directly across to the Trains booth, because they always have a great collection and really great offering that they bring to the York show. And I'm making my way through the aisles, just seeing what they have. I notice it's a lot of New England stuff, specifically New Haven. So I was like a kid in a candy store. If you follow my channel, you know that I model a lot of New England stuff, specifically Rutland and other railroads that interchanged with the Rutland. The one engine that I have been looking for a couple of years is a Weaver i4. That is the unstreamlined version, just because it is beautiful and there is so much detail on it. Sure enough, Trains had 2 of them. I have never even seen one for sale in the past 2 or 3 years, so I just about fell over, and I couldn't buy it fast enough. As you can see, this engine is absolutely beautiful. This is one of the last models that Weaver made. The detail here is unrivaled. It was a great model. Just there's so many add-on details between the feed water heater and all the piping. It's really unique looking, and at the same time, it was really a piece of history in terms of one of the best models, in my opinion, that Weaver made, and Weaver was a big contributor to the hobby. So I've been on a brass kick lately, and this one was towards the top of the list. So super, super excited to have this engine in the collection. After setting the I-4 aside, I went back into the trains booth and grabbed some rolling stock, and they had an awesome selection of Atlas reefers, Lionel milk cars, a ton of Weaver and Crown stuff, and that's where I really got to work. So I could have easily come away with 30 pieces of rolling stock, but this is maybe about 3/4 of what I got. There's a couple more pieces still in boxes, but a lot of B&M and this Boston and Albany car you don't see very often, as well as some of these Main Central stuff. So really great. Some of these have plastic trucks, so I will put die-cast trucks on them, and they will be ready to roll.
So next one is this third rail B&O Q4B Mikado. Now, I had purchased this before the show, but picked it up at the show, so I'm counting it towards my York haul because it was certainly part of my York budget. But this is a beautiful brass piece. As I said, I've been on a brass kick, and this engine was run locally to me on some of the lines up to Philadelphia that the B&O had. So something I'd been looking out for. I love the Vandy tender on this thing. It is absolutely beautiful. There's so much detail, and it's a blast to run around. So next up on Friday, I got this B&M 080 switcher. I had seen it on Thursday. It was a great price, $200, and I said, well, if it's still there on Friday, then it's meant to be. So I got this from the Model Rail Scenes booth. It was on consignment there. If you haven't heard of Model Rail Scenes, check them out. They build some really detailed and fantastic layouts. They're based up in New England, and this was on consignment there. So $200. I really didn't need another 080, but it's Boston and Maine and fits right in with what I model. So we will run this around the layout, probably on the inner loop, double-headed, and maybe on some pusher service. So last but certainly not least is this Lionel Legacy USRA Light Pacific in the Monon paint scheme. This was a custom run for Mr. Muffins. So I picked this up from him at York. I paid for it previously because it was part of an estate that he was selling, even though the item was new in the box. But it was good to pick it up and save a little bit on shipping. Now, I've been looking for one of these because I wanted to re-letter one to Rutland. There has not been a Rutland USRA Light Pacific that has been made in O scale, although they did have them. This is about as close as you can get to the prototype. The next closest engine would be a New York Central out of the Cardinal set. I didn't want to break up one of those sets, so this one's going to get re-lettered. Mr. Muffin, if you're watching this, I apologize. I'm sorry that we're going to re-letter here, a custom engine, but I know that there was a couple of these for sale. So hopefully nobody gets too mad about that, including the Monon fans. But it will be loved and cared for under the Rutland livery. So really the only other item worth noting here that I got from York is some shelves, which are going to go above my desk and provide me some additional engine storage. Now, if you like some of the engines and things that we went through here today, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to have a video coming out here maybe in the next month or two where we'll go through that Weaver i4 in a little bit more detail and show you all the great features and talk about the history of the engine. I also want to hear from you guys. What did you get from York? What was your favorite part, and how was your York experience? Let me know in the comments.